Well, make
That's
sure you
working.
tag me in anything.
Cool. Right, we're going. Right, let's do it. Guys, Matt Haycock's here, and welcome to another episode of the Matt Haycock Show. Now, I always say that I love all of my guests equally, just like all of my girlfriends. But no, but I know that I'm going to love this one just that little bit extra. I've got today with me entrepreneur and branding expert Buck Wise. Like I said, Buck's a branding expert who's worked with the likes of Starbucks, with Nike, with Google, with Grant Cardone, and he's an entrepreneur because he's built and sold marketing agencies as well. And I came across Buck 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was listening to a podcast, listening to a Brad Lee podcast, who I'm a big fan of. You know, from the second Buck started speaking, totally resonated with everything he was saying. You know, some stuff I guess because I know it and do it, other stuff because it's the kind of stuff that I need to learn, and you guys as business owners need to learn as well. So I reached out to him on Instagram, and he was kind enough to reply, and here we are today. So I am very, very excited to have Buck and his fantastic background.
Yes, sir. Hey, Matt, thank you for having me, man. And if there's one thing I know about the audience that you've got, everyone from YouTube, or if you're watching this live on Facebook, is that your audience has a quest for knowledge. And they're always coming back to you, Matt, because you over deliver on the ability for them to get more education, more guidance. But it's not just fluff. Matt, I know you're not a fluff guy. Like, you like tangible things that people can do to grow, to become better personally, professionally, financially. So here's the promise I want to make for anybody that's listening right now. Yeah, sure, my background's interesting. You could hear crazy stories about working next to Howard Schultz at Starbucks and pumpkin spice latte. But what I want to promise that anybody that sticks through this on YouTube or hangs around live right now, I think it's 7 or 8 o'clock at night in the UK. If you're there, stick with us, because I'm going to give away 2 tangible things. One, how you can create more connections that drive more revenue immediately in whatever you do, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And then number 2, I'm going to give you something to think about for the long term. I like short term, long term. So those are the 2 things I promise to give anybody that said, Matt, I trust you. I'm going to give you my time. I respect you. Then I'm going to give that back. But Matt, I appreciate you having me on, buddy. Thank you so much.
No, the pleasure's all mine. And like I said, I'm very much looking forward to this. I mean, look, I guess there's so many different ways we can go in this conversation, but let's start at the beginning of your journey. I mean, not too early, but how did you get into marketing?
Sure.
And also, I think one of the things I'd like to add in there is when I look at brands like Starbucks and Nike, for example, and then personal brands, you know, like the likes of Grant Cardone, I think, you know, one of the things I normally find in business when I'm dealing with marketeers, dealing with marketing agencies, is they would be the most polar opposite kinds of customer. You know, you're talking a very, very corporate brand like Nike, and then some more wild and cavalier like Grant Cardone, and people, you know, brand people, marketers seem to very much be one or the other. But so it's very interesting to me that you've worked on both sides of that coin. But tell me how it started and how did you learn your craft?
Sure. I'll give you 2 things real quick. One, yes, my background's eclectic. I've worked across so many different verticals, big companies, small companies, startups, multi-billion-dollar companies, and then, you know, web celebs like Grant Cardone, Ryan Serhant, Success Magazine CEO, and eXp Real Estate CEO Glenn Sanford. I've been across so many different types of businesses, whether it be CPG in the grocery store or working on fintech, like PayPal was a client that I got to work on. But the truth is, the 2 most important things, no matter who you work with, the most important thing in your personal marketing strategy is, who am I and what do I stand for? And who is the target consumer and what challenge am I solving for them? As long as you know those 2 things, it doesn't matter how drastic or how polarizing a human being may be or a brand may be. Nike understands their consumer. Starbucks understands their consumer so well that when they speak, the consumer feels it. They don't see it, hear it, or touch it. They feel it. It's emotional to them because they understand that consumer so well. They've done the due diligence and the research to know them so well. So I would say the first thing is, to answer that question broadly, is marketing is marketing. The ability to get one consumer to trust you, to take the next step in the user journey, to convert, essentially. Convert into what? That's up to you. That's your KPI. But the question is, here they are today and they don't know you. How do we get them to know you, get them to trust you, and get them to convert? Now, the experience has to be so great that they stay with you, and that's retention. And so that's what my background and over 20 years of marketing have really been focused on. If you ask, where did it all start for me? I was 17 years old, Matt, and I was a middle child, and I wanted to be seen and heard. I loved the entertainment side of marketing. I didn't understand data. I didn't quite know strategy. I didn't know what a P&L was. I was 17 years old, but I knew that I liked to entertain people and drive a reaction, right? I was a middle child. I had 2 sisters. So every night I felt like I was putting on a show. So my first job ever, 17 years old, was iHeartRadio. If you've ever heard of iHeartMedia, I don't know what kind of presence they have in Europe, but I know they have stations in Europe. Not many.
Well, I used to live in Vegas, actually. I lived in Vegas for 5 years, so I used to go to the iHeartRadio Country Music Festival. It was
it's a big festival,
annual pilgrimage.
Well, so interestingly enough, when I was 19 years old, iHeart gave me the opportunity to have my very first radio show. And they said, where do you want to go? West Palm Beach, Florida, or Las Vegas, Nevada? And I chose Las Vegas. So my first iHeart show was for 2 years in Las Vegas, Nevada at Kiss FM, 1019 Kiss FM. But what I learned in the broadcast stage, so that's called traditional media. And what I learned in the broadcast phase of my career was how to just make content, the art of creative, which is usually where most entrepreneurs spend their time, is trying to figure out what's the call to action. How do I get the attention? How do I move them into the DMs or drive them to a link so they download something? People are creating. What they forget is on the back end of that, what you really need is data, really good information, whether it be competitive data, your own data, your point of sale data, your consumer data, your persona data, your avatar data, your brand data. That information gives you the strategy. The strategy is the plan, the blueprint. Too many people are out there, too many business owners are out there just creating. The fun part, I'm going to do a podcast, right? I'm going to do a live stream. I'm going to start TikToking, and everybody's going to watch. I'm going to do TikToks every day. Gary Vee says you got to do 19 pieces of content every day. So I'm just going to go do it. The creative, they miss the strategy, the blueprint. Where does it start? Where does it go? Where does it end? What does the journey for your consumer look like, right? Because even if your one TikTok hits, you still haven't done the due diligence on where do you want them to go next and how do you convince them to do that? So my career has been backwards to some degree. I started with iHeartRadio, where I learned the art of communicating, driving an emotion, building a community of people that were like, man, I love listening to this guy. But that doesn't mean you can make money. Do you know how many influencers are online with millions of followers and they're broke because they don't understand business? The art of creative content creation, building a community, is 100% an attribute. It's 100% a skill set and a talent that not everybody has and can be taught. But without the strategy, the understanding of business acumen, the KPIs, what are you trying to achieve? Here's where you are today. Here's where you want to go. Every day, are you up, flat, or down? Are you driving the right metrics in your business? And that's strategy, which is what I learned at Nike for 2 years on Nike Running. I was the lead strategist for Nike Running Social Agency of Record. My parent, when I was acquired, I sold an agency and got acquired. Believe it or not, Matt, I spent many years in London, in Soho. My parent company was WPP, Sir Martin Sorrell. And so I spent many years at the, what do they call it? The warehouse district, where those big buildings are along the river there. The big warehouse buildings on the river.
Okay.
I spent many years there at the WPP headquarters. And so my parent company was in London. We worked with Google in London. That's where they developed some of their AI assistant chat. And we took many classes there to learn how Google and AI work together. But what I learned in the agency space, unlike what I learned at iHeart, was strategy and data. And so that's the long-term give that I told you I was going to give your audience something long-term and short-term. Long-term, should I not create content right now because I don't have data to inform a strategy? No. You get it wrong to get it right. You fail fast. You make the content. You go. You definitely go. But long-term, if you're trying to build a $5 million, $10 million, $100 million company, you're going to need to understand What data do you have? What data do you need? And where do you keep it? And then how do you use it? That data is going to inform better decisions, better blueprints, better strategies, which then give you why, the purpose, and why you create. So every time you then go to create, you have a plan. You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like what I call it, the shotgun strategy. Just see what you get.
So you mentioned influencer marketing. Well, you mentioned influencers. So there's two questions I want to ask you there from both sides of the coin. So we talk about influencers and that, you know, creating content is is a talent, but then what's the business? So I guess my question around that is, do you think that all influencers should have a business separate to it, you know, something to funnel people into, or is being a hot girl, being a good looking guy enough in itself, you know, to effectively be a billboard, you know, and
I don't know,
get
Matt, you tell me. You're a good looking guy. Is it enough for you?
Oh, I can't get paid enough looking this good, but no. So that's half the question. And the other half of the question is coming at it from a brand owner's perspective. You know, what are your influencer marketing strategies? And I say that because one of my businesses is in fashion. You know, I've got men's and ladies fashion retailer and a ladies shoe business, and we do a bit of influencer marketing. But now whether we get it wrong or whether it's just overrated, I don't. But for me, I struggle to see the ROI. Well, not struggle. I believe from single posts there is no ROI. I think you know, unless you can barely make your costs back. I think maybe there's value in working with a specific influencer on a long-term basis and doing a 360 campaign and getting multiple touch points. But I think, you know, just for someone just to post a picture of you, you know, post a story, I struggle to get the ROI. I mean, two slightly different questions, but both on influencers there. So I'll
let's first of all, I love influencer marketing. You know, the first thing to remember is influencer marketing has always been around. It's been around for ages. It's just changed how they compartmentalize it, how they model it, how they label it. You remember they used to call them endorsements, and they were only celebrities, right? It was like the football player would now be eating, you know, the burger from the McDonald's or whatever it was, right? Or Adidas would use some athlete and they'd be wearing their shoe. And then what happened was Mark Zuckerberg created a social platform, and Tom created MySpace and Facebook, and all these platforms came about. And what it did is it gave power to the people. It gave power to the individuals, the individual consumer, to build their own micro community. And they don't have to have any talent whatsoever. They just have to have eyes and ears, people to see and hear more content. And so that's when influence, quote unquote, really started to take a shift. And here's, let me speed the process up, because I built the first influencer campaign for Starbucks. There was no FTC regulation. If you know about influence today, it's heavily regulated. FTC wants to make sure that there's disclosure, that there's you know, there's no discrepancy in medical HIPAA compliancy, and they're just really detailed and granular on what you can say, how you can say it, what you're supposed to say, hashtag sponsored, hashtag partnered. We were doing influence back when none of that existed. And here's what I've learned today. If you're getting into influence, number one, is it an effective marketing strategy? 1,000,000%. So there's three kinds of marketing. There's owned, paid, and earned. Influencer marketing is a mix of paid and earned. And here's why. There's usually some trade to another individual. You're paying them, whether it be monetarily or you're trading them a product, service, or good. And on top of that, they're introducing you to an audience that they have already built. I'm going to go back to that word that I used in the beginning. They've already built with this community trust, which is what marketing is. Do they trust you? That's why we hire these people, because it takes me 6 months to get those people to trust me, but it takes them 3 minutes to trust the influencer with the same product or service. That's why we do it, right? But today in influencer marketing, there's tiers of influence. There's macro, there's mega, and there's mini influence, right? There's that massive star that's got millions and millions of followers. What we're seeing in trends in marketing, even with big brands, people are spending money on the micro influence. Why would you hire someone with millions of followers versus somebody with 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 followers? Well, I'll give you the differentiator. Somebody massive, right? Beckham, right? Or Kardashian, you're getting attention and awareness. Everybody's going to see it. They're going to hear it. Now, remember, the average consumer needs to see you 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 times before they feel comfortable to make a decision. So what better way to get in front of them than hiring massive influencers to talk about your brand? But here's the misconception. People don't convert with macro influencers. They convert with their friend. Hey, you know what? I saw Kim Kardashian talk. Hey, Matt, I saw David Beckham talking about this, and I thought it was really interesting. Oh, yeah. I actually went and bought it today. I love it. Oh, you're kidding me. Damn it. Okay, I'm going to buy it too. It's on the micro level that decisions are made. And so that's why you can spend, it's called luxury. Sometimes they call R&D money, research development money, luxury money. If you've got millions to spend to have Beckham post for you, great. Get the awareness, go waste your budget. Just, here's the money. But if you don't, you really want to attack the micro audience. You want the friends of friends and friends of friends in the small groups to be doing the ones posting, and you want them done organically and authentically. So you're seeing the rise of authentic micro influence. And I mean small, because think about it. Somebody with 5
what's
to 10,
small? 10,000,
5 to 10,000 could be less. Here's the answer. What's small? You tell me. How much does your product cost? Anybody listening to this or watching this right now, how much does your product cost? Think about that for a second. Oh, did I freeze or am I on? I'm back on. Okay.
You're back.
Think about how much your product costs. If this person with 20,000 followers got you, let's talk vanity metric. Vanity metric is like, share, comment, right? You get reach. You get let's go 50,000 followers. You get 1,000 views. From 1,000 views, you get 50 comments. From 50 comments, you get, let's say, 5 conversions. Right? There's your ratio from vanity to actual conversion. Now let's take your micro influencer, 2,000 followers, went to college in the same town, works out at a local gym, right? Like, in the fitness space, let's say. They have 2,000 followers. Was their reach 1,000? No, their reach was like 400. Less than 50%, easily. 400, 300. Out of the 300, how many engaged? Well, remember the macro influencer, they had 50, or the mid-tier, they had 50. Your engagement was 20. Remember how many conversions they had? They had 5 on the mid-tier. The micro has 10. 10 convert because they're best friends with this guy or this girl at this gym, this local, right? Smaller audience, higher conversions. We see that all the time. So it's really not a matter of how many followers. So this is what I look for. If you're doing influence, look for this. Next time you hire someone, I don't ever look at following. I look at sentiment, community engagement. Read those freaking comments. How many are... You have 5 comments, you barely have any authority. You get anywhere from 10 to 20 in micro, that's not bad. 10 every time you post, you get 20 comments. That's not horrible. Anything over that, you're doing pretty well. Like you're getting 50 to 100 comments and you have like 5,000, 10,000 followers. That is the sweet spot. Now, read the comments. Are they emojis? Or are the sentiment? Are they real conversations from real people? Because that's the other thing. Everybody's out there, fake it till you make it. You got people buying emoji comments. So read them. Are they in context with what they're posting? If all you see in comments, teach you right now, if all you're seeing in comments is rad, cool, sweet, awesome, those are called paid comments. Everybody has access to them. They're on the iPhone app. You can buy them from the Apple store. They're like engagement pods. They're not real, right? But if it's like, oh, Matt, I freaking love that fashion. That's so cool. I remember last year when you launched it. Sentiment, context, right? So you have to do a little bit of manual labor on these micro influencers and go, hey, are these people really connected? Are they really engaged with what this person's doing? That's a thumbs up. I'm going with that.
And what about the length of time to partner with these kind of people? Because I mean, I guess anything gets better over time. I mean, would you advocate, let's say you've got a budget that could be used for 50 people for a week, or 10 micro influencers for a month? Would you be going with the lesser number of people for a longer period of time and really getting them to authentically look with your brand?
Yeah, I would say two things. Number one, my marketing philosophy is transformation over transaction. So you nailed it, Matt. I love relationships more than I love one-offs. You're never going to have as much success if you have a one-off. Having said that, I'm a data marketer. So sometimes agencies or other marketers or brand marketers, they look at things in month to month. I look at things day to day. How far did it go? How many people connected? How many commented? How many engaged? How many converted? How many clicked? How many clicked and didn't convert? Right? I'm looking at those metrics every day. So the answer is always, what does the data say? And for every product, service, influencer, region, competition, it's always a little bit different. So there is no like one rule of thumb. What I would say is, one, I focus on long lasting relationships, so that my focus is, if I'm going to partner, I want to partner over time. I want my value and their value to be yoked. And I want to go into a partnership thinking about, how do we build something? I mean, here's the truth. You know this, Matt, you've created successful businesses before. You can never create success alone. So the question is, who's on your team? Let's get the right people, the right community, the right influencers. You're going to help them grow and they're going to help you grow. Let's go into this together as a true partnership. And that's how you should look at influence, as a partnership. Don't look at influence as, and this is why influencers, by the way, hate working with brands. They're used. Yeah, just talk about my product. Throw the link in there. Just, cram it down your viewers' throats. Like, it's like, no. They have an audience because they cared about the audience and they brought value to the audience, and they didn't sell them things, right? So you see a lot of influencers start trying to sell things and they lose the engagement on their audience because they become unauthentic to why they started the channel in the first place. So I would say, read the metrics and let me know what the metrics say. But there's always a good place to start, and then you optimize as you go. You can always put levers into a contract where, if performance doesn't exceed X amount, we have options to optimize and pull levers. So you're never handicapped by the fact that you agreed to one thing for 6 months and, well, shit, it's not working 3 months in. You should have a lever to then readjust your time, attention, resources, budget in those things, or completely cancel the contract if it's not doing what it needs to.
And as an influencer, and as a micro influencer particularly as well, I mean, everybody likes to moan about the diminishing reach of organic on whether it's Instagram,
of course,
Facebook,
less than 3%. Less than 3%.
So if you are taking being an influencer seriously, should you be putting money into paid ads on your content as well?
Yeah, no question. You got to reach more people. So there's multiple ways to do that. Again, I go back to my buckets: owned, paid, and earned. There's 3 ways to do it. Listen, if you don't have big budgets and you want to reach more people, guess what? The best thing you could do, let's go to the buckets. You don't have a big paid budget. Organically, you're doing everything you can do to fight the algorithm to get to as many people as you can. The third bucket is earned. Who else in your space are you connecting with to tap into their organic audience? The power of influence is in networking. The fact that I'm probably going to meet 5, 10, 15 more people because I'm on Matt's podcast. He's going to tag my Instagram @AboutBuck, or put it in the chat or wherever. Somebody's going to tag it. They're going to listen to it. They're going to get on Instagram. They're going to get on Facebook, and they're going to follow me. That's called earned. I didn't pay a dime. All it did is take my time and Matt's time. On the other side, Matt's going to make up little clips out of this podcast, and he's going to post them, and he's going to tag me. I'm going to share them because I'm going to look super crazy smart. He's going to find one of the best things that I say all day, and he's going to make a little clip, and I'm going to go, damn, I look really good, and I'm going to share it on my audience. And somebody else is going to go, shit, I want to do business with Matt in Dubai or the UK, and they're going to click on it, and he's going to get a follow. So we're cross-referencing our earned media together. Imagine if Matt did this 5 times a day. He doesn't need paid. You don't need paid. How big do you want to go? Now, if you're trying to get macro, you're trying to get big, you're going to have to spend some money to compete. because that's why Zuckerberg created these platforms in the first place. He created these platforms to get people to pay. That's why this is why the organic reach is low, because he wants people to pay. It's not a free platform. Everybody says social is free. Gary still screams it. Social is free. 3% free. The rest is paid. You got to pay to play. That's it. But I will say there are platforms that are better. And Gary Vaynerchuk, who I have speaking at an event in Dallas, October 6th. By the way, if you're in the States listening to this, successunleashed.com, still tickets available. Come see Gary V on stage. But Gary is right about one thing. There are two platforms where it's not 3%. TikTok, LinkedIn. Those two platforms, you can still hit an algorithm. They're giving more to the organic, because these platforms live and die by DAU, daily active user. And so if they're giving you the ability to reach more people faster organically, you're more willing to get on that platform more often than, say, an Instagram or a Facebook, because it's so damn hard. We post these reels and we go live, and the growth is so slow, and we don't have big budgets. But you get on TikTok, I mean, we hit 1 million views every week at our agency, Closing Day Agency. One of our clients every week will hit 1 million on TikTok. It never happens on Instagram. You have to pay the game on Instagram to hit 1 million.
I mean, when you're sitting down to make a TikTok for one of your clients, I mean, what would be 2 or 3 key things that go into your thought process of this? You know, these are the key ingredients of a viral post. Because even if you get them, you know, you're not necessarily going to get that viral post. But you know, does every viral post have 2 or 3 key ingredients?
Here we go, Matt. Delivering on my second promise: short-term gain. This is the short-term gain portion of Matt's podcast here. So how can we create success faster with content? We're skipping data strategy. We're going straight to creative. Let's give some tactical things that you can do right now, even with no data, no strategy. By the way, the 2 things I said you need: who are you and who are them? The more you know that, the easier it is to connect and go viral with that audience. But if you're like, I don't really know, I'm just kind of discovering, think about it this way. An easy strategy to follow is you have less than 2 seconds to make impact. So if you're taking notes on this podcast, write down the word impact. You have less than 2 seconds. Okay. 1, 2. That's it. In fact, if you're watching this now, take your phone and go like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's how much time you have. You have that much time to get attention, to make an impact. That's how fast the average user is scrolling, right? They're not giving people much of an opportunity anymore. And by the way, every year that number shrinks.
I mean, I have to say, you know, I can tell you two things from a personal perspective to back up what you're saying, Buck. You know, one, I often I'm sat in the back of the car with my girlfriend, and she's a massive TikTok watcher. It's one of the banes of my relationship. And, you know, she's there, and she's like this, you know, scanning through, and sometimes I watch her, and I said, why did you just swipe up from that one? She goes, I don't like it. I said, don't like it. You didn't even see it. You didn't even see what it was. I mean, like the attention span is just non-existent. But then taking that into data that you can use, you know, a big thing we've done with our podcast over the last 2 months is to almost put more effort into the trailer than we put into the podcast.
That's right.
I never like to use those kind of words, because I don't mean we don't put any effort in, but ultimately, you know, the podcast is what it is. You know, it's a 60-minute conversation, top and tailed, with an intro and an outro. There's not too much more I can do. Yep. But if we spend 90% of the effort then into the trailer to make that trailer, you know, feel killer, that, you know, the first 2 or 3 seconds you're hooked, and every second of that 45 to 60 seconds of the trailer you're thinking, wow, this is getting better, this is getting more emotive, we really want to watch this. And you know, and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you know, we're 3, 4, 5x up in terms of podcast downloads. Nice. We've the podcast now has its own podcast page. You know, which is starting to get some decent engagement. Yeah, I mean, my biggest piece of advice so far from anything you've been talking about is you know, that first 2 or 3 seconds, and put more effort into the micro content than the macro content, you know, the long form stuff. Now, obviously, if you've got the resource, you want to be doing everything. But if time and resource has to give, then concentrate on the smaller bits, because that's what will hook people in. Then if they like you enough, they'll put the effort.
Yep. You got to drive impact, and then you got to keep them there. So the second word is value. You got to drive value. It's kind of like, you've ever heard the word clickbait before? Everybody knows what clickbait is, right? Yeah. Like ready? I'm going to give you 2 seconds. How to make $1 million in less than 30 days. Are you ready? Who wants to do that? Hey, I got a quick question. Who wants to make this much money in the next 30 days? Who wants to make this much money, right? Okay. All right. Well, first, number one, you got to get on Instagram and you got to start creating content. And when you create content, then like you just meet people and then you make more money, and that's how you do it, right? Clickbait. I actually did not deliver any value in that conversation. So just because you get the impact in 2 seconds doesn't mean that you do two things. Keep them there. So you have to add value immediately after you get attention, which is why Matt, when you introduced me, Matt, I said, by the way, I'm going to give you 2 things today if you stick with this entire podcast, long-term and short-term strategies. The reason I did that is because I want to give value. I understand the importance of value. I want people to stick around, and I want this to be the most watched podcast that Matt has ever created. So that's why I not only gave impact, but I also said, hey, I want to add a little bit of value here. Now, the next piece after value is credibility. Why am I the one you should be listening to? And Matt told you I didn't have to do it. He gave me what's called third-party validation. Matt said he's worked with Starbucks and Nike and Grant Cardone, and that's why you should listen to this guy, because he knows something, right? So I got impact, value, credibility, and then the last thing that nobody ever thinks about is the call to action. If you don't tell people what to do, they're going to do what they want to do, and that is usually not the thing you want them to do. So where do you want to drive them from here? I like to drive people to my Instagram. Like an easy no-brainer. If you have no product, drive them to a place where you can have an intimate conversation. For me, that's where Matt met me in the DMs, and I talked to him back and I said, hey, let's get on the podcast. Let's have a conversation. So impact, value, credibility, call to action. There's your immediate, I'm telling you, increase in 20% in your engagement and content creation if you follow that guide next time you open up the lens and start creating content. And I want you, if you do this, if you're watching this right now and you do this, I want you to reach out to me and tell me that you're using this strategy and it's working for you. I like to hear from people, so that would be great.
Look, we've talked a little about TikTok, Instagram, etc., which is very, I guess, which is very fast, very visual. Very short attention span. A big marketing form that's getting more and more popular nowadays is newsletters. Mm-hmm. Newsletters is something again we launched 3 or 4 months ago. You put a lot of effort into a weekly newsletter. Talk to me a bit about your thoughts on newsletters. If there's any common marketing tactics, or if it's all part of the 360.
Sure. By the way, for those of you who are not tracking the genius behind Matt's getting a free multi-million-dollar consultation right now on strategy. So you should be following along in Matt's footsteps. Don't pay for consultation. Just start a podcast and get it for free. That's exactly what he's doing.
No, but it's funny. But Buck's saying this in jest. But one of the things I always say to people, I say everyone should have a podcast.
Yes.
Because, and I always say, even if no one ever watches or listens to your podcast,
you'll meet people.
2 great things it does for you are it gives you framing to be able to meet people that you would never normally meet otherwise.
That's right.
It's what if I want to speak to someone, I try and ring them up, they won't even take my call. If my assistant rings up and says, hey, Mr. Wise, can we invite you on the Matt Haycott's podcast with X number of downloads? Right. And we're going to talk about this so you can showcase your business. All of a sudden, that person's interest is piqued, and you've got a much higher chance of getting them on. But then, secondly, when you get the people on the podcast, I always say, it's like Buck says, it's a private consultation. I get to sit, sometimes I have really interesting conversations with people that are just generic, but other times I sit down with great business people where I can ask the questions that I want to ask that are relevant to my business. And, and there's just no other marketing form that gets that. And then the benefit is hopefully some people do watch and listen, and hopefully that gives you some conversions as well. But if no one ever watches or listens, you have had some of the world's best business advice from the world's biggest experts.
So true. Matt, by the way, I wanted to say hi to Zoe, David, Rosie. Daniel Buck thinks he should change his first name to Wise. Daniel, I agree with you. Go for it. Daniel Buck, that's a strong family name, Daniel. I like it. Thank you, guys. And David says, I hope your wife's not listening, Matt. Yeah, you're talking about her TikTok habits. I hope she's not listening to you either. But to answer your question, there's so many different ways to connect with your target consumer. First, let's go back to the two most important things. And I beat this like a dead horse. I just beat this and beat this and beat this, right? Know who you are and know who they are. Because email may not be great for Gen Z, right? Gen Z doesn't give a shit about email, right? But what do they care about? That phone number is sacred, and there's no algorithm on their text. So the answer to the question is, who's the target? And is that a great vehicle? Is that a great platform where they're already having conversations? Something else you have to think about too is behavior. So just because, well, Gen Z, they're all over Snapchat. We should start having paid brand conversations on Snapchat. Think about behavior. Gen Z uses Snapchat as a one-to-one messaging platform. They don't want creepy brands trying to serve them ads on Snapchat, right? That's not the platform where they are comfortable from a behavior standpoint having conversations. So what you need to do is join conversations that are already taking place in places where they are already comfortable having them. Now, Matt, I believe in your world, in the business world, in the investor world, in entrepreneurial space, email is essential. I think email is great for that demo. I think it's when you get on the younger end of the scale, you have to reconsider if email is where you want to spend your time and money. I do love lists. They call them lists, right? I love a good list. A list is only as good as your nurture. Write that down if you're taking notes. Your list is only as good as your nurture. I've watched lists be built and die because you don't add value consistently. 70% is the number. 70% of the success of any campaign you're going to launch is in how you nurture them to the end goal. Think about that. It isn't the ad. It isn't the podcast that Matt does. It isn't that first DM where you wrote back to Matt. That's not where the conversion is. 70% of the conversion is in Matt's ability to nurture me in the platform I like. I need 16 emails before I say yes. I need 3 text messages before I agree to a meeting. I need 2 phone calls, cold calls. Maybe I need 2 phone calls, 3 emails, and 4 texts. Your target is, it depends on your target on where you nurture them, but 70% of the success is in the nurture. The other 10, 20, 30% is in the attention. And I believe, honestly, Matt, that's the easiest part. The easiest part is Matt and I having a really good conversation and putting it on YouTube. Attention, aware, his numbers are up 3x, 5x. That's the easy part. The hard part is, what do you do now? Where do they go? What do we do with them? How do we get them to convert? How do we get them to trust? How do we get them out of YouTube? I don't want them. It's hard to have conversations in YouTube. That's comments, right? It's very public. How do we get them into a text conversation? You got to drive them into a product. You got to drive them into a place. I call it digital to physical. In any strategy you have, wide is digital. Here we are. Here's Matt and I having a conversation on YouTube, Facebook Live. Wide. Right now, we're just wide net. Everybody listen. Attention, awareness, right? But now what? Okay, we got you. We got you with impact. We got you with credibility. You're following along. You like this. We got to get them to physical. I got to get them to this. I want to bump your fist. I want to shake your hand in a room. I want to talk to you on a phone. I want to text with you. I want to go from here to here. That's a true funnel when you think about marketing funnels. I want to get physical with people. So how do we do that? We got to drive them to whatever the next platform is. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's talk a little bit about personal brand. We talked about content creation at the beginning. Let's talk
Yes,
about
sir.
personal brand.
I've got a meeting in 5 minutes, Matt. So let's go 5 minutes on whatever you want, and we'll wrap it up.
I tell you what, then let's skip personal brand 5 minutes because I've got to take advantage of this personal consultation.
I love personal brand though, but go ahead. That is my favorite.
We'll do that.
I'll just say this about personal brand. It is the most important thing in anything you will ever do. Why? Because even if you sell, scale, or terminate a company, Nobody takes your personal brand. It's your own equity that no matter where you go, you leverage the power of your personal brand. Even if you sell off a billion-dollar company and you have no rights to it ever again, nobody touches your you can't sell your personal brand. It stays with you for the rest of your life. If you're not investing, and I mean heavily investing in your personal brand, you are missing an opportunity for rapid growth later in life. That's it. That's all I'll say on personal brand.
Well, look, let's stay with personal brand then. And I mean, I always hear comments, and I'm like you, I'm the biggest advocate for personal brand. You know, whether you were a 14-year-old at school, you know, whether you're a
100%.
doctor, a dentist, a financier, whatever it is. But I always hear so many business owners or employees in more, let's say, old school industries that go, you know, I don't need personal brand. Personal brand doesn't apply in my industry. You know, let's wrap up by telling people in any industry of any age why personal brand relates to everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the two T's I talk about: transformation or transaction, right? So people, when they think of personal brand, the biggest objection I get, Matt, is people go, I don't need a personal brand. I already make a lot of money. I do a lot of business. I'm not even on Instagram. Buck, I make $6 million a year. I'm not even on Instagram. Why do I need to be on Instagram? Well, number one, I have to ask you this question. Is $6 million really a lot of money? Are you done? You giving up at 6, or do you want to go to 20? What sounds better, 6 or 20? You want to go to 20 million? You're not going to get there with the system that you're using now. So that's the first thing I say to people who are already successful. You're complacent and average if you're happy where you're at. I only want to do business with people who strive to go bigger. If you hit 100 million, why not 2? Why are we stopping at 100 million revenue, right? Let's build $1 billion equity. Let's go big together. Let's go public. Let's sell something, right? So that's the first thing, is like I look out for dangerous people who are happy where they're at. That's the first thing. Number 2, transactional. My personal brand is less about driving leads and building business and making money, and more about connecting with other people who are going to catapult whatever I'm doing or work or partner with me together. Think about recruiting. Your personal brand. Buck, my leads are amazing. It's called choking on the flow. I can't even convert half the leads that come in because my team's not big enough. If you had a personal brand, you'd build a bigger team with better talent, better leadership, because you would do what John Maxwell talks about, magnetizing people to you. If you're not online, if you don't exist, perception is reality. Okay. In marketing, perception is reality. Meaning, if you're not online and you don't exist, you don't exist. Right? So you need to exist. You need to have authority in your space. When people search you, you need to have credibility. You need to be a thought leader in what you're doing. Who cares if it never brings you business leads? It's going to bring you the next executive. Now, this is called productive paranoia. Every day you're not promoting yourself online. Today was the day. Matt was going to sell his company for $50 million. But the guy that was going to buy it, the company that was going to purchase the company for $50 million, today was the day they were searching and couldn't find Matt online. But they found someone else and acquired them, right? So like, it's not just revenue, it's people. That's why personal brand is important. People, employees, technologies, partners. You need funding, right? You're a big company, but you need funding. Matt isn't going to find you, right? You guys are not going to find each other. So it isn't, don't be so transactional. Like, I don't need a personal brand because I don't need money. Like, it's not much, like, you know, so the real question is, do you either want to grow or you don't? If you're like, yes, I want to grow and I'm not happy, then you need a personal brand, because it's going to open the door to opportunity at a faster rate, at a larger scale. Yes, you can go knock on doors. You can go sit in little meetings around your community. You will not grow nearly as fast. Matt's across the world from me right now. And here we are having a conversation because we both have a personal brand. We both have an imprint online. And so we're having this conversation. And who knows, Matt and I might do business together. I might help him, explode his business. He might introduce someone to me that helps me explode my business, right? Matt and I might do a business together one day. I don't know, but I'm not going to limit myself because I'm good enough. So that's Matt, I get very passionate about it, but that's my take on personal brand.
Well, listen, I think it's a perfect way to close. I mean, we could talk all night, and I really hope we're going to do a round two. 100%, you and I are going to do some business. And next time we see each other, I'll be taking you for dinner in my favorite place in Dubai. So
yes.
I will look forward to seeing you there in October.
Dude, it's going to happen.
Before you run to your meeting, just tell everyone where to find you.
Yeah, just go to Instagram, About Buck, ABOUTBUCK. Daniel Buck, thank you, buddy. Says, I'm a top guy. Daniel, you're in the family. You and I think we've got heritage together. David, thank you so much for the kind words. And so, Matt, yeah, I connect with everyone. And I say, hey, by the way, don't just follow me. That's passive. Engage. Force yourself out of your comfort zone. Send me a video and say hello. Daniel, send me a video on Instagram. Say, hey, it's Daniel. It's great to meet you. I want to see your face. You will close more deals with your eyes. Remember that. Show your face. Have conversations on video. Get used to this.
Listen, Buck, thanks a lot for your time, buddy, and thanks everyone for listening. I'm going to end this stream now and let Buck get to his meeting.
Thank you, brother.
Buck,